another American TESOL Presents Free Friday webinar. I'm your hostess, Shelly Terrell. Today we're going to talk about learning in the cloud or cloud computing and how this can really help you. It sounds very difficult, but I'm going to explain it to you in very easy, simple terms and show you some really great possibilities that will help you transform your classroom. So it's important that we understand what this is. And this actually, cloud computing means different things for your school versus you as an individual. And that's something that's really important to distinguish right away. So, first of all, have you ever heard of cloud computing? And what do you think, what have you heard about cloud computing? Well, actually the term, they said that the term cloud, there's disagreement on the origins of this term, but a lot of it has to do, some of them say it's because that cloud represents the internet. And sometimes they call it the web, but basically the internet, we have all these possibilities. Whenever we, like now, okay, so we're on the webinar and we're all here. And my files, they're not being shown from my computer. My files were uploaded to Adobe, and so Adobe hosts this file. So they would say Adobe has this in the cloud. See? So even if I were to come back, and let's say that I went and I was staying at a friend's house and presented on their computer, because I already uploaded this, I could still have my slides available. So that's kind of cool. We could still have a lesson together. So basically, the cloud is this invisible space. I'll show you a better picture because I think visuals help you. That's above your computer. So it's like, and that's where it stores your files, your videos, your music, so many different things that you can store, and they're internet-based. So that's what cloud computing in its simplest definition is. It means that the tools you use, whether it's Google, whether it's Animoto, anything like that, that when it stores stuff, it doesn't store it on your computer. It actually stores it in this invisible space you never see, but you know your files are there. So one thing to note about cloud computing is that one of the biggest concerns with cloud computing, and you know, this is often asked, and it's still being, people are still looking for ways to make this better, but the security issue. And we have seen things like that happen before, where people have, you know, access to information. Banks have their information in the cloud. We've heard a lot that have been hacked in different areas as well. So even though we're very comfortable with being in the cloud, a lot of us will store things in the cloud. We'll say, okay, we'll leave our pictures, for example, on Flickr or something. That's the cloud. If it's not on our computer and it's on the internet, then that's the cloud. Now, this is a little bit different. This looks complicated. The reason this looks complicated is because the cloud computing is very different for your school. And it's funny because when I started doing my training on Google Docs and Google Apps and all of that, about 5 or 6 years ago, they would often tell me, they would say, well, the English language teachers are probably not going to use it. But we wanted you, the whole entire office would adopt Google Apps because they just saw how useful it was. They said, oh my gosh, and they loved it. So the school would use the spreadsheets and everything to do office stuff, but they hadn't bought in to using it with the students yet. But nowadays, more and more schools are. More and more schools, in other words, are saying we don't want to have a server that has all of this stuff. Instead, we want to do Google Apps. So then they can store everything on the cloud. And what does that mean? Well, it means that when you couldn't access your email, you couldn't really access grades, you couldn't access like all this stuff unless you were at the computer in your building. Now you can access it at home. So it means now you can actually grade papers and everything wherever you go. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing because that means more work for us, but in other areas, it's a very good thing. Exactly. And that's what cloud computing has done. And you know, for me, when you get cloud computing, you see the power of it. It's pretty amazing. And I'll share with you the first cloud tool that I used that just blew my mind and really changed my life. But one of the ones is Google. Google is the best kind of the best kind of example of the cloud, because there are different aspects of the cloud. So if you read any of the bookmarks, and I'm going to share with you the Pearl tree that I made, it gets complicated. There's different types of cloud computing, but this is only really relevant to schools and businesses with infrastructure. So in other words, you could have something very simple where you just store files, okay? So you can imagine that everybody in the school, all the teachers, can store files. That could be very helpful and useful, right? That way, let's say that if we wanted to access each other's rubrics, we wanted to get maybe like handouts and stuff, games, that, you know, templates, things like that, then we would all have it in one area. Well, there's another option. That's a simple one where it just stores things. But now schools are saying we want options where we can do other things. We want to be able to grade in the cloud. We want to be able to, we want to be able to collaborate on the cloud. They want to do more. They want students to get to publish things. They want students to get together. They want to put their video, you know, there's so many things that they want to do on the cloud. So Google kind of does that. It's like high-powered cloud, because not only does it store, but you can actually create things on Google. And that's what makes it a very powerful cloud, because there are things, and I'll show you, like Dropbox, where you store things. But then there's Google, and with Google you can make music on the cloud. You can do it collaboratively. You can do videos where people join you, up to 10, and that's on the cloud. You can have presentations, you can have spreadsheets, all of this on the cloud. So there's so many things that you can do on the cloud with Google. You start off with 15 gigabytes. I think that's really good. And then you can share folders. You can work offline. It has free mobile apps. And when you download Google, you actually have to download like every single app. In other words, like you have to download Google Hangouts. You have to download Google Communities. There's an app for everything. The other part that I really love about Google is because all of it's in the cloud, it makes it very easy for you and your staff to get together and communicate and collaborate. Or it makes it very easy for you all to get together and also do things like peer editing. So that's what I like to use Google stuff for as well, because the kids can go, they can collaborate, they can read each other's work. Sometimes we get Kaizana, and Kaizana, you know, they can even leave voice comments for each other. So there's so many things that you could do with Google. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Peggy has a very good question. She says, she brings up a good point. She says, when your students share docs and videos with you on Google, does that count against your 15 gigabyte limit? Yes. And in fact, I've made all these rubrics that I made with Google Scripts. And all my students had folders, but what they do is they tell you at the end, give them up to your student, and then you get all that memory back. So you have to actually give them back to your students so that way it gets off your cloud. So very simply put, it's web internet based. You access it through the web. When I first really found out about cloud computing, I was actually living in Germany and I was doing my master's, and it was an online course, but I remember we used to take trips all the time, and there was this one point and I'm walking with a flash drive, and I'm trying everywhere for 5 hours, running around Barcelona trying to find a way to get my paper and do my research paper. And I was very, very frustrated. I was kind of a bit, like, what am I going to do? Because I went to an internet cafe and the flash drive areas didn't work. Well, we were able to go to McDonald's and get that taken care of, like different things, But later on, I discovered something called bookmarking on the cloud. And for me, like being able to put my essays and everything, whenever that situation happened again, it didn't happen again because I had all my stuff in the cloud, and now I have everything in the cloud. It's great because it's kind of like a sigh of relief because I don't have to worry, oh, I left that there, I left that there, because anywhere I have internet access, I can access all of my documents. And that just blew my mind, that you could just anytime, anywhere do that. Now, on 2011, I actually participated in the advisory board for the NMC Horizon Report on cloud computing was number 2. So we identified 6 trends in education. And one of the trends that we said in this 2011 report, we said within 2 years, teachers are no longer going to want to use tools that aren't cloud-based. What does that mean? In other words, when you have things like EduCreations, you make a video, then you get to put that actually on EduCreation server. They give you a class, and you can have your students' EduCreations in the class. In other words, you're not going to want to have, we predicted that teachers aren't going to want to have all of the students' projects on the computers anymore. They're not going to want to have to do everything and be stuck just to the server. They're going to want to be able to access it anywhere. And the same thing with students. Your students are going to want to access their homework, their information, all of their stuff anytime, anywhere. So cloud computing allows you to do that. Sorry. So it's really transformed the way we learn, and it's really motivating for your students because now your students, they can access all your information. If you wanted, you can have them access the ebooks, you can have them the materials to study. You guys can do collaborative notes and it can be saved in the cloud. There's so many possibilities with cloud computing. I love what Tony Bingham says. He says, technology is enabling our need to be mobile. We want to ensure that learning matches our style. So now I ask teachers all the time that I tell them the most important part of your lesson, your curriculum, is all the stuff that your students can access on the go. And the reason I say that is because if you have all your notes, your bookmarks, your videos, and everything that they learn from, and they can access it anywhere, then they have the ability to get that knowledge versus just Googling or using Wikipedia. So it's really great. One of my favorite things is when I first learned about the cloud, I got Digo. And I love that. I love that you can social bookmark on the cloud. For me, that was a game changer because now you can even do that collaboratively with your students. And anywhere you have internet access, you can access all of that knowledge and that background. And they can keep it for life, and it can grow and grow. So I always recommend Digo. It's not as pretty as the other tools. But Digo does really amazing things. You can get it as an app. You can get it on the web. You can even download as software. the great thing about Digo is it's very simple to use. You upload stuff and things like that. So your students can as well. There's you can have groups, you can tag things, you put in folders, and it goes everywhere you go. But the other thing about Digo is it allows you to annotate websites. So when you're actually on a web page, if you belong to groups and you're signed in, you can see their bookmarks on the same page, which I think is actually kind of fantastic. There's so many things that Digo does. So for example, if I tag a bunch of different types of things I saved within the week, if I mark it down, Digo will actually make a blog post, and if I tell it to, will automatically blog for me all the links that I had that week. You can set that up in Digo. It'll do it instantly for you. So it's pretty awesome. But there are other things as well that you can bookmark on the cloud. And now when Digo was first there, it's not very pretty. Because back then we didn't have what's now called curation. Curation is where you can make your research, your bookmarks, your research look very beautiful. And that's where, which I think is wonderful, because now students think research and bookmarking is engaging because they love, images. So, and videos, so they can do all that. And these are the ones that I recommend for school. I'm going to actually show you a few. So LifeBinders.com, you can access that anywhere. The great thing about LifeBinders is it looks like a notebook. But you can store things there. You can store files. You can put password protected. You can take somebody else's work, actually, if they say it's okay, and tons of teachers do. And you don't even have to restyle your life binders. You can use somebody else's style that they use. So there's so many different types of things you can do with life binders. I really love it. The next one I would recommend is EduClipper. And EduClipper is great for teachers. If you have an iPad, it's really fantastic. And the only reason that I don't ever recommend it as the first thing, you can even give them badges, you can grade within, all of that's free, but it's because it doesn't have an Android app. And so when I'm recommending things, I have to look for something like Digo that's just like accessible on everything. But EduClipper is really awesome, so if you have an iOS device, you should check it out. Alan Bellis has thought of everything. You can curate, it's basically like Pinterest for education, except it functions better. Because Pinterest, although it's very lovely, there's so many things that don't make it a great tool. It kind of takes your time away. The great thing is Adam on the iPad app has, and this is free by the way, so you can download it for free, has a feedback. So your students can either, or you can offer feedback on whatever they have right in the middle, which is what they already curated, and talk about the experience. So, I mean, I just think he thought of everything. So another thing that teachers might not realize is, let's say that you set up a picture site. You can do this with Flickr. Flickr has one of the, so one of the things you're concerned about with the cloud is memory, okay? Because that's what makes the cloud so fantastic. If you can't store stuff there anymore, then it's not great. But Flickr was about to go. Actually, it seemed like they were gonna die away, which is a bit sad because Flickr is amazing and has all these great tools associated with it. And then all of a sudden, somebody bought them out, and now they give you 1 trillion bytes, I think, with Flickr. And the great thing, you know what I use it for? It'll auto backup. So like if you have your phone and you have the Flickr app, which is free, anything, you know how when you're, sometimes you accidentally delete things? Well, with Flickr, it'll automatically post something like that you tell it to. So then you don't have to worry about if something happens to your phone. Yeah, I do. I love listening. I didn't mention Leslie. Okay, so there's a reason I didn't mention Leslie, because Leslie doesn't act as much as a cloud as the other tools do. So for example, Live Finders, that acts as a better cloud. You can actually store files there. Pinterest, you can even add pictures as well. And I think you can even add PDFs with Flickr. I mean, with Pinterest. Flickr, in this, you have a trilobite. That's huge. So with Flickr, you can also add your student videos. So that's something to think about. If you are wanting to store videos and stuff like that, you can set up a class account. And if you set up a class account for Flickr, it gives you an email address. So your students don't even have to have a Flickr address. They just mail the pictures and the videos to it, and it'll post when you approve it. So I think that's really good about Flickr. The other really great one is you can take your browser on the cloud. Your browser can be on the cloud too. And in fact, this is my browser. And you'll notice something very funny about it. I chose this theme, and the theme is called The Cloud of Loveliness, which I think now that I looked at it, is probably a play on the whole cloud thing. But I love Chrome, and the reason it doesn't work on a lot of things, so no, I don't like that part of it. But what I do love about it is I've actually gone to other countries and stuff and logged into my browser. It saves all my bookmarks at the top here. It has all these apps that they've stored in it, and they stay. It's my browser on any computer in the world. I can just sign into it. It remembers all the information that I typed into sites because I told it to. I mean, it just does everything. I can't imagine. So I love that. I love that and it remembers my history. So it's really phenomenal. I've been to internet cafes and signed into my Chrome browser, and it had everything there for me, like if I was on my own. It's just amazing what the cloud can do for you. Okay, so another good tool that a lot of people don't know about that I like better than Dropbox is Box.net. Now, the reason why I like Box.net, because Box.net gives you 10 gigabytes. It's not as much as Google, but it's better than Dropbox. Plus, you can create things. You can add apps to Box.net, and you can do collaborative, just like Google Drive. I think they're trying to be like a mesh between Google Drive. You can have messages. So on the top, if you are doing a collaborative work, you can actually message each other while you're working on stuff. I think that's very cool. This is where you have your cloud, and your cloud has all these apps so you can create things together. Well, like if you want to do video production or anything like that. I added Google Docs, Google Spreadsheet, a Word document, PowerPoint. All of that are apps that you can have if you go at the top too. So you can create with this, and it just has a lot of things. Now, the other one people really like a lot is Dropbox. My only thing about Dropbox is so easy, and I do actually love it and use it a lot. But the thing about Dropbox is it doesn't give me enough memory ever. I always have to delete things all the time and save it on somewhere else. So that's the only thing I don't really like about Dropbox. But it's very easy to use, it's very simple to access, and I'm the kind of person that I tend to try a lot of cloud-based tools, because when I run out of my memory, I never want to, stick with that tool. I kind of just, I like having 15 gigabytes everywhere. And that's it. So you've seen some of the things about the cloud. There's so much more. In fact, if you look at your Amazon, one of the first cloud computing tools was Amazon, because with Amazon it stores your books in the cloud. The cloud is everywhere. And there are a few things you have to be concerned about. The first thing is you have to worry about the safety, okay? You also have to worry just in case, because it is, in the end of the day, some server somewhere, okay? So if it's some server somewhere, that means a few things. There is the possible, I mean, it's a very slim chance that if anything ever went wrong with that server, you'd lose it. So I'm the kind of paranoid person that I'm always saving things everywhere because I'm always thinking that, some thing's gonna just like disappear. And so that's what I try to do. But that's why I have box.net, I have a Dropbox, and I find that each of them serves their own purpose when I need them. So I like it a lot. But for you, whenever you're doing a project, cloud computing is the way to go. It's going to make your life so much easier because you can just load all the projects and everything. You don't have to worry about it in your computer and things like that. So I hope you learned a lot about cloud computing. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask me. I'm going to leave the link so that way you can access that. Oh, actually, Peggy already did, so that's awesome. And if you go to Kindle, now you can find my book on the cloud. I actually just got the Kindle version. I just finished creating that. So you can actually do that. Peggy, can you write that question again? Do you have a tip to keep with all your storage spaces? Well, I don't really worry about that. Only because I don't have that many. I have Dropbox, I have Box.net, and I have oh, thank you. And I also have actually GET.T, which is a really good one as well. Oh, hi, Sarah. No, actually, that's a great question. Okay, so Peggy says that if you shared on Box.net, would she be able to edit it? Like if I invited her as a collaborator. And the answer is yes. You should be able to edit it on the Box tool. Yes. And the great thing about Box.net, and I don't know if Dropbox does this, but they give you a widget for your blog. So a lot of presenters use Box.net, and what they do is they put it on the sidebar. And if you wanted to have like all the handouts from all your presentations, you could have that in a little Box.net embeddable thing. So it's really nice that it does that. Well, I'm going to end this so that way it's not too long. And thank you so much for coming.